Hello. I'm so glad that we're just about on time, so this ticket just about works. We're starting off at 3 o'clock, so hello. As James said, my name is Daniel Saunders, and I'm the Digital Marketing Coordinator at the Edinburgh Festival Fringe Society. And I've been there for the past 4 years, heading up our social media activity, amongst various other things. In that time that has passed, the role of social media, in particular, its relation to customer services, has changed dramatically. But before we get stuck into that, I'd like just to go a bit back in time to give you a little bit of our history, in case you didn't know it already. So the Fringe dates back to 1947, when 8 theatre companies turned up in the city of Edinburgh with the ambition of appearing at the first ever Edinburgh International Festival. But sadly, they were turned away. But they weren't deterred by that. They decided to just go ahead and put on their shows anyway, and they performed on the fringe of the festival. Needless to say, this idea really took off. They came back year after year, the number of groups growing and growing. And by 1958, they realized it was a little bit chaotic, and they decided to make sense of it. So they came together and created an organization called the Fringe Society. And we're a charity that exists to kind of serve as the custodians of the festival and underpin it, but not to be in charge of it, not to dictate how it works, but to try and make sense of it and try and make it a little bit clearer for everyone involved. In that time, the challenges we've been trying to tackle have changed a lot, but the specific challenge I'd like to shine a light on today is a bit down to the unique way that people interact with the Fringe as a festival. I imagine anyone who's attempted to visit the Fringe has at one point encountered that same challenge of being utterly overwhelmed by the choice of shows available. In this year's program, we had in excess of 3,600 different shows registered in the program, and people honestly don't know where to start. And this was the challenge back in the 40s and the 50s and the 60s. And back then, the way you tackled that was by word of mouth. You'd sit down with a friend you knew that you trusted the judgment of, and you'd say, what should I go and see? Please make a recommendation. And you'd probably go and see that. And it's a festival built on recommendations. And it's for that reason. It's a festival where people still come to this day to be discovered. You might recognize this. Anyone can register a show in the Fringe program. This is from 2013. I'd love to know what happened to it. Because of this word of mouth, because of this ability of people sharing stories and making recommendations, you can turn up in Edinburgh as a relative unknown and leave potentially as a superstar. People talk about their experiences. They see something that may have no one seeing it in the first week, and by the end of it, it becomes absolutely huge. In some cases, the rest is history. Nowadays, word of mouth takes various different forms. While many Fringe goers still sit down at a bar at a table and make recommendations to one another, thousands upon thousands go online, go onto social media, and make their recommendations that way. Over the month of August alone, we are tagged in hundreds of thousands of tweets, in messages, and in comments. Last Fringe that just passed, it was in excess of 175,000 posts. And that's a huge challenge for us to overcome because we are a very small team. For context, the amount of tweets we receive in an average day at the Fringe is more than O2, British Airways, and ScotRail combined on a regular day, and it's a nightmare to deal with. This is just a snapshot of, I think, 30 seconds of posts coming in, and you can't even read them, for which I apologize. Most of these conversations are people making recommendations to one another. There's actually not much for us to do. They're not asking for our assistance or our help. And many times it's just people sharing their experiences, their opinions, whatever they may be. For example, in Helen's case, just because We All Rock You can be played on the bagpipes doesn't mean that it should be. I would recommend, there are worse songs. It's not too bad. You should definitely check it out. Our job is to try and identify amongst this sea of noise who needs help and who we can assist. And that's an incredible challenge. In addition, we're trying to search through this from a marketing standpoint to find those conversations and those bits of content of people having an amazing time at the festival so we can showcase that and share them. We look to our team, which is incredibly small. This photo is of our team just before the festival begins, but in reality, our year-round team is about 30 people. So it wasn't simply a case of just getting more people to wade through all those conversations. It simply wasn't feasible. In addition, it's not a year-round challenge. If this was something that we came in every day of the week and had to face, we could obviously build a team around it. But this is a challenge we have to tackle for about 3 weeks, so you can't really train a team up to tackle it that quickly. So we started to ask the question, is there a way we could automate this? Could we use artificial intelligence to tackle this problem? We looked at a lot of ways organizations tackle this, and they could try and automate the process as if you're actually talking to a human, but you're actually talking to a bot. In some cases, this involves a user just going onto social media and typing in a chatbot, and the chatbot understanding what they're saying. And in other cases, they're a little bit more crude, where you're going through and looking at multiple choice and sort of answering those questions as you go. This is where we encountered our first snag. The sheer range of questions that we get asked during the festival period is extraordinary. And what makes this an additional challenge is, as a charity, we are not responsible for the shows or the venues that take place at the Fringe, yet we are the people people turn to ask questions about the Fringe. This is just a snapshot of the typical questions, but we've genuinely been asked questions like, "Hi, I'm at the Balmoral Hotel. How do I get to the Voodoo Rooms?" Which, if you're not local, it is across the street. I imagine they got a cab and that driver had a great day. So what did we do? Because we realized that we just didn't know where to start with all these different questions. So we took a really high-tech approach. We started mapping out the different journeys people had with us, the different questions they'd ask us, and the follow-up questions they may be asking. And then doing this in an attempt to build a sort of multiple-choice chatbot. And we started doing it, and from this level alone of just the basic questions people could ask, there was over 100 different routes they could go down. And that's not to mention the permutations of slang or language or any way they could describe something. We didn't know where to begin. So what did we do? We couldn't use technology, actually. There wasn't this magic solution that you could plug in to understand what was going on. So we took a step back. We went back to our team, and we said, if we can't have a bigger team, if we can't employ a bot to solve this, what could we do? We started to analyze all the conversations we received in 2018, and we started to develop patterns. We looked for keywords, we looked for behaviors in language to see what conversations we needed to respond to most. And then once we'd established that, we tried to work out how could we divide that amongst the teams. Historically, social media was the preserve of the marketing department. But with our new approach, we built an automated system that tried to work out what someone was saying. So if they had a question about ticketing, that tweet or that message or that comment got handed over to the ticketing box office team automatically. If they had a question about performing at the Fringe, we have an artist team arranged for that. So instead of having to build a new team or start from scratch, we realized we had it was inside us all along. We could have done it that way. This meant that during this festival, we managed to get through that backlog of 175,000 messages, and the vast majority of high-priority conversations we were able to tackle within the hour, which is no mean feat given that the digital team is 3 people. What was brilliant with this as well is by automating this process, it opened up more time for us to create content, to engage with people having a great time, and us to answer the really big questions that we get. Such as this genuine example. We got this message through, "Hi, I need your help." It's very important. Hairs on your back and your neck go up. You start to panic. What has happened? Have they lost their tickets? Do they not know how to cross Prince's Street from the Balmoral to the big Voodoo Rooms? No, they were asking this genuine question. A guy wearing a shirt with blue sharks on gave me a flyer today, and I need to find him as he was a hottie. Our job is to help people visiting the Fringe. So we got in conversation with them. We asked, okay, where did you see them? What was the show? And eventually we gave them the tools to potentially go find this person. The wedding invitation is still outstanding, but fingers crossed one day this will have a happy ending. So we couldn't use AI to solve this problem. It was, in some respects, a failure, but we haven't given up. Going back to that point at the start, that when you open the program, you are overwhelmed. In the Fringe Society, we often call this phenomenon selection paralysis. It's the kind of thing you get when you look on Netflix or Amazon or the iPlayer. You just don't know where to begin. So we're really, really lucky to be one of Creative Informatics' first partner organizations, and we're exploring the use of AI, machine learning, and chatbots to help people work out what to see at the Fringe, because it is an enormous challenge, and we hope that through technology, we'll be able to solve it. So I guess this concludes. I hope you found this a useful insight into how you could go about tackling a problem with technology, giving things a go and acknowledging that failure is absolutely fine, because you can actually learn a lot about yourself in doing it. Also, that your own team are your experts, and actually there's a possibility you're not using them to their fullest. The person who is your receptionist probably knows the most about that customer interaction or the ins and outs of accessing your business or your hotel. And finally, if you have any questions about this, you can catch me afterwards or just tweet us at EdFringe, because I'll probably see it eventually. Thank you.